"Why are you sending me this?" I asked, staring at my cell phone screen with my heart racing. It was a statement. A damn mortgage statement. $8,000 a month. In the name of Vanessa, my daughter-in-law, because my wife ordered it. "Starting tomorrow. You are the one paying," declared David, my son, with a satisfaction in his voice that froze my blood, as if he had just given me good news, as if he were doing me a favor. $8,000 every month, out of my pocket, out of my seamstress retirement fund, out of the savings I had gathered sewing ivory dresses for brides, hemming black slacks for office workers, and stitching beige curtains for bored housewives. 30 years of work summarized in an order that didn't even come from my son, but from her, from Vanessa. I didn't argue in that moment. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just felt something cold settle in my chest, something I had never felt before. A terrible clarity. A certainty. But at dawn the next day, David and his wife were the ones left in shock, because when they opened their eyes, they discovered that the money had vanished. The account? Cancelled. The cosigner agreement I had signed without knowing? Voided by a lawyer. And they, my son and that woman, were standing on the street with their designer suitcases in front of a condo building they could no longer enter. 47 missed calls that morning. 29 text messages from David screaming. 12 from Vanessa calling me a monster. And me, sitting in my small living room, drinking coffee from the mug my late husband gave me, feeling for the first time in months that I could breathe. How did I get here? How did a mother who only wanted to see her son happy end up being called selfish, cruel, evil? Let me tell you everything from the beginning, because this story didn't start with a bill. It started much earlier, with small signs that I ignored because a mother always wants to believe her child is doing well. My name is Margaret. I am 66 years old. I have been a widow for 4 years. Ever since Arthur, my husband, died of a heart attack while watering the tomato plants in our backyard. It was instant, the doctors said. He didn't suffer. But I did. I still suffer his absence every morning when I brew coffee for just one person. I live in a small but dignified house in the suburbs, just outside the city limits. 2 bedrooms. A garden with lilac bushes I plant every season, and a kitchen with cream-colored tiles that Arthur installed with his own hands when David was 10. The house is completely paid off. Every brick, every window, every door. 30 years of monthly mortgage payments that Arthur and I paid without fail, sacrificing vacations, new clothes, and dinners at restaurants. I worked as a seamstress starting at 25. I had a small workshop in the back room where I received clients who arrived with fabrics and dreams. Pearl-colored dresses for sweet 16s. Gray suits for men who needed to look important. Hemming jobs, broken zippers, lost buttons. Nothing glamorous, but it was honest work. It was mine. I retired 3 years ago with a modest Social Security check and pension, $1,200 a month. It's not much, I know, but together with the savings Arthur and I accumulated over decades, it was enough. Enough to live with dignity, enough for emergencies, enough to feel secure in my golden years. David is my only son. I had him late, at 35, when I had already lost hope of becoming a mother. He was my miracle, my reason for existing for so many years. When Arthur died, David was 32 and had just landed a good job as a manager at a logistics company. He earned a good salary. He didn't need my financial help. Oh, or so I thought. After the funeral, David came to visit me every Sunday. He would bring donuts from that bakery I liked, sit with me in the garden, ask me how I was sleeping, or if I needed anything fixed around the house. He was attentive, affectionate, the son any mother would wish for. Those were the hardest months of my life, but David was there. He helped me sort through Arthur's clothes, donate what wouldn't be used, and learn to be alone without feeling empty. He taught me how to use apps on my phone so we could video chat when he couldn't come over. He made me feel that, although Arthur was gone, I wasn't completely alone in the world. Then, 2 years ago, everything changed. David met Vanessa at a work conference. He told me excitedly over the phone, like a teenager with his first crush, "Mom, she's incredible. She's smart, successful, beautiful. She works in digital marketing. She makes great money. I think she's the one." I was happy. Of course I was happy. My son had been alone for so long, focused only on his career. Seeing him hopeful filled my heart. I wanted to meet her. I wanted to give her my blessing. I wanted David to be happy, to build his own family, to have what Arthur and I had for so many years. The first time Vanessa came to my house was a Saturday afternoon. David had given me a week's notice. I cleaned every corner, cooked my best pot roast, and put fresh flowers on the table. I wanted to make a good impression. I wanted her to know he came from a humble family, but one full of love. When they arrived, my heart almost stopped. Vanessa was exactly as David had described her. Tall, elegant, with that air of confidence that successful women have. She was wearing a dark green dress that probably cost more than my entire monthly Social Security check. Her purse was designer, her shoes flawless. Everything about her screamed money. She greeted me with a perfect smile. Too perfect, like the ones practiced in front of a mirror. "Nice to meet you, Margaret," she said, using my first name instead of something warmer. From the beginning, she established distance. We walked into the house, and I saw her eyes scanning every detail. The old but well-cared-for furniture. The curtains I had sewn myself. The photos of David at different stages of his life hanging on the wall. The brown sofa Arthur and I bought 15 years ago. "It's cozy," she said finally. But the tone didn't match the words. There was something in her voice, a kind of pity disguised as politeness, that made me feel small in my own home. During the meal, Vanessa barely touched the food I had prepared with so much love. She moved the potatoes from one side of the plate to the other, cutting the meat into microscopic pieces that never reached her mouth. "I'm watching my diet," she explained with that smile I was already starting to recognize as fake. "Nothing personal, Margaret. It's just that I'm very strict with what I eat." David ate for both of them, praising every bite as if he wanted to compensate for her slight. "Mom, this is delicious as always." "Vanessa, you should try at least a little. Nobody cooks like my mother." She smiled and took a minuscule bite. It's fine," she said, and put down her fork. I felt a pang in my chest. It wasn't about the food. It was about the way she was measuring me, evaluating me, and finding me insufficient. After eating, while I was clearing the plates, I heard Vanessa murmuring something to David in the living room. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught loose words. Outdated, remodel, potential. They were talking about my house, about my home, the place Arthur and I built with love and sacrifice. When I came back with coffee, Vanessa was looking at the photos on the wall. "David looked so cute as a boy," she said, pointing to a photo where my son was 8 years old holding an ice cream cone. "It's a shame you guys couldn't give him more opportunities when he was little." Opportunities. That word hit me like a slap in the face, as if everything Arthur and I had done hadn't been enough, as if the sacrifices, the sleepless nights working, the simple meals so David could go to college didn't count as opportunities. "We gave him everything we could," I replied, keeping my calm. "And I think he turned out just fine." "Oh, of course," Vanessa said quickly. "I didn't mean to suggest otherwise, just that. Well, in my family we always had a different standard of living. My parents gave me the best private schools, trips to Europe, university abroad. It's what I hope to give my future children." There it was, the first jab, the comparison, the subtle way of letting me know she came from a better, bigger, more important world than mine, and that David, by choosing her, had moved up a class. David looked at her, entranced, as if every word that came out of her mouth was pure gold. He didn't realize how she was minimizing me. Or maybe he did realize, and simply didn't care, because he was too blinded by her. When they left that afternoon, David hugged me at the door. "What did you think?" he asked with hopeful eyes. "She's incredible, isn't she?" "She's very self-assured," I replied, choosing my words carefully. I didn't want to ruin his happiness. I didn't want to be that bitter mother-in-law who criticizes her son's partner. I know. It's one of the things I love most about her. She's so different from everything I've known. He kissed my forehead. "Thanks for having us, Mom. It means a lot to me." I watched them drive away in Vanessa's car, a sleek silver luxury sedan that shone under the afternoon Sunday. As they disappeared down the street, I felt a knot in my stomach. Something wasn't right. But I told myself they were just motherly nerves, that all mothers feel jealous at the beginning, that I had to give her a chance, How wrong I was. The following weeks, David started to change. Subtly at first. He called less. His Sunday visits became bi-weekly, then monthly. When he did come, he was always in a hurry. Sorry, Mom. Vanessa and I have plans. Sorry, we agreed to go to Vanessa's parents' house. Sorry, we have an important dinner. Vanessa never came back to my house. When I asked David if I had done something wrong, he shook his head. No, Mom, not at all. It's just that Vanessa is very busy. Her job absorbs a lot of her time. You'll get to know her better soon. But that soon never arrived. Instead, I started hearing things. Little comments David would drop without realizing. Vanessa says I should invest more in my personal image. Vanessa thinks I should look for a higher-paying job. Vanessa thinks living in the suburbs is for people without ambition. Every sentence that started with Vanessa says was like another brick in the wall being built between my son and me. She was remodeling him, molding him in her image and likeness. And David let her, fascinated by this woman who represented everything he had never had. One day, 6 months after that first visit, David arrived at my house unannounced. He walked in with a nervous smile and bright eyes. Mom, I have something to tell you. Vanessa and I are getting married. My heart skipped a beat. It should have been a happy moment. I should have hugged him, cried with joy, celebrated the news. But something inside me tightened painfully. So soon? I asked. You've only been together for 6 months. When you know, he responded, repeating a phrase he had surely heard from her. Besides, Vanessa doesn't want a long engagement. She says at our age, we already know what we want. And what do you want, David? I asked, looking him straight in the eyes. He seemed confused by the question. I want to marry her, Mom. I want to build a life together. I want to make her happy. I noticed he didn't say she wanted to make him happy. Everything revolved around what Vanessa wanted, needed, expected. But I bit my tongue. I didn't say anything. I'm happy for you, son, I lied, hugging him. If she makes you happy, then you have my blessing. David relaxed visibly. Thanks, Mom. I knew you'd understand. The wedding will be in 3 months. Nothing too big, just something elegant and intimate. Vanessa is already organizing everything. Of course she was organizing everything. Vanessa organized, decided, controlled, and David simply nodded and smiled. There's something else, David continued, getting nervous again. The wedding is going to cost around $30,000. Vanessa wants it to be perfect at that fancy downtown country club with gourmet catering, imported flowers, a professional photographer. The best of the best. $30,000. The figure floated in the air like a sentence. $30,000 was more than I received in 2 years of Social Security. It was almost everything Arthur and I had saved for my old age. That is a lot of money, I said carefully. I know, we are going to pay for most of it. But... He paused, not meeting my eyes. Vanessa and I thought that, as the mother of the groom, you could contribute, say, $5,000 to help out. It's tradition for the family to contribute. $5,000, just like that, as if it were nothing, as if I had that money tucked under my mattress waiting for someone to come ask for it. $5,000, I repeated, feeling the words get stuck in my throat. David, that's more than 4 months of my entire income. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I know, Mom, but I thought that. Well, you and Dad always saved. I know you have some savings put away. And this is my wedding, your only son getting married. I thought you'd want to be a part of it. There it was again. The soft manipulation, making me feel that if I didn't agree, I was a bad mother. That if I didn't drain my savings for their dream wedding, I didn't love him enough. It's not that I don't want to be a part of it, I tried to explain. It's just that that money is for emergencies, for when I can no longer fend for myself, for medicine, for house repairs, for... Mom, David interrupted me, and in his voice there was a tone I had never heard before. Impatience, frustration. That is thinking very negatively. You're healthy. The house is fine. Vanessa says older people cling too much to money out of fear, and that doesn't let them enjoy life. She says you should invest in your family's happiness while you can. Vanessa says. Again, Vanessa says. As if that woman's words were the Bible and everything else was irrelevant. $5,000 is a lot for me, I insisted, feeling like I was losing ground. I could give you 1,000, Maybe 1,500. David's expression hardened. Vanessa is going to be very disappointed. Her parents are putting in 15,000. She hoped my family could match at least a third of that so we wouldn't look bad. It wasn't about love, about celebration, about uniting two families. It was about not looking bad in front of Vanessa's rich parents. I'll think about it, I said finally, just to end the conversation. Give me a few days. David stood up, clearly dissatisfied. Okay, but I need to know soon. Vanessa has to confirm the venue and needs the deposit. He gave me a cold kiss on the cheek and left. I sat in my living room for hours after he left, looking at the walls Arthur had painted, the furniture we had chosen together, the life we built with so much effort. And I wondered when my son had stopped seeing me as his mother and started seeing me as a source of financing. That night I called Susan, my best friend for 30 years. I told her everything. She listened in silence and then said, "Margaret, that woman is using you, and your son is letting her do it." "But it's his wedding," I protested weakly. "You only get married once." "God willing," Susan replied with sarcasm. "But listen to me carefully. If you give him those $5,000, it's not going to be the end. It's going to be just the beginning. People like Vanessa never have enough. They will always want more." She was right. Deep down in my heart, I knew it. But he was my son. My only son. How could I deny him something so important? In the end, I caved. I took $5,000 out of my savings and gave it to David 2 weeks later. He hugged me, called me the best mom in the world, promised he would pay me back someday. Empty promises that floated in the air and vanished like smoke. The wedding was exactly as Vanessa had planned. Elegant, ostentatious, perfect. The hall was enormous, with high ceilings and crystal chandeliers. The tables were decorated with champagne-colored tablecloths and centerpieces with white and pale pink flowers that probably cost more than my monthly utilities. I arrived alone, wearing a lavender dress I had bought on sale that seemed appropriate until I saw the other guests in their designer outfits. I felt immediately out of place, like a stain on a perfect painting. Vanessa was radiant in an ivory wedding gown that must have cost a fortune. Her family occupied half the room. Uncles, cousins, grandparents, all elegant, all with that air of superiority that comes from never having to worry about money. I was seated at a table near the back, along with some of David's colleagues I barely knew. Not next to the family, not in a place of honor. In the back, where I wouldn't interrupt the aesthetic of the photographs. During the ceremony, I watched my son. He looked happy, that was undeniable. He looked at Vanessa as if she were the most precious thing in the world. And maybe for him, she was. Maybe I was just a bitter old woman who couldn't accept that her son had grown up and chosen his own path. At the reception, Vanessa greeted me briefly. "Thanks for coming, Margaret. And thanks for your contribution." The way she said contribution sounded as if I had given a tip, not sacrificed a significant part of my financial security. I tried to talk to David, but he was busy, always busy. With the guests, the photographers, with Vanessa. Every time I got close, she dragged him somewhere else. "Honey, I need you to talk to my uncle." "Babe, the photographer is waiting for us." "David, come say hi to my cousins." I left early. No one noticed. The following months were more of the same. David called less and less. When he did, the conversations were superficial. "How are you, Mom?" "Good. Great. I gotta go. Vanessa is calling me." They stopped coming to visit me entirely. When I asked if I could go see them at their new apartment, there was always an excuse. "We're very busy with work. We're redecorating. It's a mess right now. Vanessa isn't feeling well." They were slowly erasing me from their lives, but I still didn't realize how deep the plan went. Then, one Saturday morning, 6 months ago, I received a call from David. It was unusual because lately, we only communicated via text. "Mom, I need to talk to you," he said, and his voice sounded tense. "It's important." My heart raced. Were they expecting a baby? Was there a health problem? "Tell me, son, what's wrong?" "Vanessa and I are buying a condo, an amazing one downtown. It has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a balcony with a view of the city. It's perfect for when we have kids." I waited. I knew there was more. The problem is that the condo costs $400,000. It's an incredible investment. The value is only going to go up. But we need a down payment of $80,000, and we only have $50,000. I felt a chill run down my spine. And we thought maybe you could lend us $30,000. It's just a loan, Mom. We'll pay you back as soon as we refinance in a couple of years. $30,000. It was almost everything I had left in savings after the wedding. It was my safety net, my cushion for emergencies, my peace of mind. David, I don't have that money, I said, feeling the panic grow in my chest. After the wedding, my savings went down a lot. I can't. Mom, I know you have the money. You and Dad saved for years. I know there's more. Vanessa did the math. With your pension and the years you worked, you must have at least $50,000 or $60,000 saved. Vanessa did the math. Vanessa had been investigating my finances. Vanessa had been planning how to extract every last penny from me. Even if I had that money, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, it is for my old age, for when I can no longer work, for medicine, for care, if I need it. I can't give it to you. There was a long silence. Then David spoke, and his voice was cold. So cold. What a disappointment, Mom. I thought you cared about my future. I thought you'd want to see your son prosper, but I see that your money is more important than my happiness. David's words pierced me like knives. It's not that, I tried to explain, feeling tears pool in my eyes. Son, I love you more than anything in this world. But that money is all I have. If I give it to you and something happens to me, if I get sick, if the house needs urgent repairs, I'll end up on the street. Do you understand that? It's always the same with you, he responded with a tone of contempt he had never used with me before. Always thinking the worst, always afraid. Vanessa was right. She said people of your generation live terrified of the future, and that's why they never get ahead. Vanessa was right, Vanessa said. Vanessa, Vanessa, Vanessa. That woman had entered my son's life like a virus and replaced every independent thought he ever had. David, listen to yourself. Since when do you talk like this? Since when is money more important than family? Precisely because of that, I'm asking you, he shouted. Because you are my family. Because family is supposed to support each other. Vanessa's parents already put in their share. They believe in us. They want to see us succeed. The comparison hurt more than any direct insult. Me, who had raised this man alone after his father died, who had worked until my hands ached to give him an education, who had sacrificed everything for him, was now being compared unfavorably to Vanessa's parents, who simply had more money. I cannot give you $30,000, I repeated, this time more firmly. I can help you with $3,000, maybe $5,000 if I tighten my budget, but no more. David's laugh was bitter. $5,000? What good is $5,000 to us, Mom? That doesn't even cover the closing costs. You know what? Forget it. Vanessa was right. She said you probably wouldn't want to help. She said people like you only think about yourselves. People like me. My voice cracked. What does that mean? Selfish people. People who cling to their money while watching their own children struggle. Fine, Mom. We'll find another way. But I want you to know that when we are in our beautiful apartment and you are still in your old little house, it's going to be because you chose money over us. He hung up. My son hung up the phone after calling me selfish. I sat in my kitchen, holding the phone, crying like I hadn't cried since Arthur's funeral. What had I done wrong? At what moment had I lost my son? How had I allowed that woman to turn him into someone I didn't recognize? For 2 weeks I didn't hear from him. They were the 2 longest weeks of my life. Every day I waited for a call, a text, a sign that my son was still there, that the kind person I had raised hadn't disappeared completely. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore and called him myself. He answered on the 5th ring. Mom, David, please. We can't leave things like this. Come visit me. Let's talk calmly. There was a long sigh. Okay, I'll come Sunday. That Sunday I cooked his favorite meal. I cleaned the house until it shone. I dressed in my best clothes. I wanted everything to be perfect. For him to remember how much I loved him. For us to see that we could get past this. When he arrived, he came with Vanessa. He hadn't warned me. She walked into my house like an inspector evaluating a condemned property. Her eyes swept every corner with that gesture of disapproval I knew so well. "Hello, Margaret," she said, without even trying to fake warmth. She sat on my sofa as if she were disgusted to touch it. David looked uncomfortable. "Mom, Vanessa wanted to come so the three of us could talk, to clear the air." "Of course," I said, though I knew this wasn't going to end well. "Do you want coffee?" "No thanks," Vanessa replied quickly. "I prefer not to consume anything here." The way she said "here" made it clear she considered my house beneath her hygiene standards. We sat in a horrible tension. Vanessa spoke first. "Margaret, David told me about your conversation. I have to be honest with you. I am very disappointed. I thought as a mother you would want the best for your son." "I want the best for him," I replied, maintaining my calm. "But I have to think about my future too. I can't be left without savings." Vanessa laughed. It was a condescending laugh, as if she were talking to a silly child. "Your future? Margaret, you are 66 years old. How many more years do you think you're going to live? 10? 15? Meanwhile, David and I have a whole life ahead of us. That money is going to go much further in our hands than sitting in your account waiting for you to die." I gasped. Had I heard right? Did this woman just say that in front of my son? I looked at David expecting him to say something, to stop her, to defend me, but he just looked at the floor, tapping his foot nervously. "I can't believe you just said that," I whispered. Vanessa shrugged. "It's the truth. Someone had to tell you. You are being selfish. You have money you aren't using for anything while your own son has to settle for a small apartment because his mother doesn't want to let go of it." "Vanessa," David finally spoke, but she cut him off. "No, David, enough being soft with her. Your mother needs to hear the truth. My parents are helping us without thinking twice because they truly love us. But your mother prefers to see her money pile up in a bank rather than see her son happy." I stood up. My legs were shaking, but my voice came out firm. "I think it is time for you to leave." Vanessa stood up with a satisfied smile. "Perfect. We only came to give you one last chance to do the right thing. I see you refused it." David stood up slowly. He looked at me with something in his eyes. Regret? Guilt? But he said nothing. He simply followed his wife toward the door. In the doorway, Vanessa turned around. "By the way, don't expect us to invite you to the new apartment when we move. It's clear you aren't part of this new stage of our lives." They left, and I crumbled. The following months were a silent hell. David didn't call. I tried to reach out several times, but my texts went unanswered, or I received dry 1- or 2-word replies. "Busy, talk later, fine." Susan came to visit me often. She found me crying in the kitchen, unable to sleep, unable to eat. "You have to be strong," she told me. "You did the right thing. That money is yours. You worked for it. You saved it. You don't have to justify yourself to anyone." But it was easy to say. She wasn't the one who had lost her only son for refusing to empty her bank account. I tried to convince myself that maybe I had to give in, give them the money, get my son back, even if it meant being left with nothing. At least I would have David back. At least I wouldn't be so alone. I was about to do it. I had gone to the bank. I had filled out the forms to withdraw the money. I was ready to sacrifice my security just to not lose my son forever. But then that message arrived. The message that changed everything. The receipt. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was watering the plants in the garden when my cell phone rang. A text from David. My heart leaped with hope. Maybe he had reconsidered. Maybe he wanted to apologize. Maybe we were going to be okay. I opened the message. It was an image. A monthly mortgage statement. $8,000 a month. In the name of Vanessa. For a condo they had already bought. Below the receipt, a message. "Why are you sending me this?" I typed with trembling hands. The answer came immediately. "Because my wife ordered it. Starting tomorrow, you are the one paying." I read the message 3 times, 4, 5, hoping the words would change, that I had misunderstood, that it was some kind of cruel joke. But no, there it was, in black and white. An $8,000 monthly bill, and an order. Not a request, not a question, an order. "Starting tomorrow, you are the one paying." My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped the phone. I called David immediately. He answered on the 3rd ring, and in his voice, there was something that froze my blood. Satisfaction. As if he had just won something. Mom, you got the message. David. What is this? What does this mean? It means exactly what it says. Vanessa and I bought the condo. We got a 30-year mortgage. The payments are $8,000 a month, and we decided that you are going to pay them. I sat on the front step because my legs wouldn't hold me. You decided? Just like that? Without asking me. Mom, don't be dramatic. It's only fair. We asked you for help nicely and you refused. So Vanessa had a better idea. Instead of giving us all the money at once, you're going to pay it month by month. It's easier for you that way. Easier for me? My voice went up several octaves. David, $8,000 is almost 7 times my monthly income. I don't have that money. Not even clothes. That's why you'll use your savings. Vanessa calculated everything. If you have around $60,000 saved, that's enough to pay for 7 or 8 months. By then, we will have refinanced or found another solution. Another solution. As if I were a temporary fix. An ATM they could use until they found another one. This is insanity, I said, feeling panic. Climb up my throat. I am not going to do this. I cannot do this. David's voice hardened. Mom, you already signed as the guarantor. The world stopped. What? You signed as the co-signer on the loan. Remember those papers I gave you to sign 3 months ago? The ones I told you were to update your info as the beneficiary on my life insurance? I remembered. He had come over one day. He had given me some papers. He had told me it was just paperwork. I had signed without reading because I trusted him, because he was my son, because I never imagined he would lie to me. You tricked me, I whispered. You made me sign something without telling me what it was. I gave you the chance to help us voluntarily, he replied without a shred of guilt in his voice. You chose the hard way. Now you're going to help us anyway. The bank has your signature, Mom. If you don't pay, they're going to foreclose on your house. My house. The house Arthur and I built. The house where we raised David. The house that was the only thing I had left in this world besides my memories. You can't do this, I said. But my voice sounded weak even to me. You are my son. And you are my mother. Mothers are supposed to sacrifice for their children, right? Well, now it's your turn to prove it. The first payment is due in 5 days. I'll send you the account info. David. He hung up. My son hung up on me after threatening to take my house. I sat on that step as the sun went down. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. My mind was a whirlwind of terror, disbelief, betrayal. How had it come to this? How had the baby I held in my arms, the boy I nursed when he was sick, the young man who cried on my shoulder when his father died, turned into this? Vanessa. Vanessa had turned him into this. She had seen a kind but impressionable man and molded him. She had found his insecurities about his humble childhood and exploited them. She had made him believe he deserved more, that I owed him more, that taking everything he could from me was his right. That night I didn't sleep. I stayed up calculating, looking for solutions that didn't exist. If I paid $8,000 a month, my savings would run out in less than 7 months. After that, what? My pension wasn't enough to cover even 1/10 of that payment. I would have to sell the house. I would end up on the street. At 66 years old, homeless, penniless, familyless. The next day, I went to see a lawyer, an older man named Mr. Harrison who had helped Arthur with the house papers years ago. I told him everything. I showed him the text messages, the statement, everything. He reviewed the documents with a grave expression. Margaret, this is fraud. Your son falsified your consent. You signed believing it was something else. I can void the signature. You can try, but it will be a long process. In the meantime, the bank can start foreclosure proceedings if you don't pay. And proving there was deceit, it's going to be your word against his. And if I simply don't pay? Mr. Harrison sighed. Then they will go after the primary borrowers first, your son and your daughter-in-law. If they can't pay, which I assume they can't, they will come for you as the guarantor. They will put a lien on your house. And if I renounce being a guarantor now? You can't renounce something you already signed. The contract is binding. I sank into the chair. I was trapped. My own son had put me in a trap from which there was no escape. What can I do? I asked, feeling tears roll down my cheeks. Mr. Harrison remained thoughtful. There is an option. We could prove the signature was obtained through deceit and petition for its annulment. But you would need proof. Messages where they admit they tricked you, witnesses, something concrete, and you would need to act fast before the bank initiates any procedure. I went back home feeling defeated. I reviewed every message, every conversation. David had been careful. He had never admitted in writing that he had tricked me. Everything had been over the phone or in person. The next 2 days were torture. David sent me constant messages. Did you make the transfer yet? Mom, I need payment confirmation. The deadline is tomorrow. If you don't pay, Vanessa is going to call the bank. Vanessa. Always Vanessa behind everything. The night before the deadline, Susan came to visit. She found me in the kitchen, surrounded by papers, calculating numbers that didn't add up for the 100th time. Are you going to pay? She asked, sitting in front of me. I have no choice. If I don't pay, I lose the house. And if you pay, you also lose the house. Just slower. She was right. It was losing either way. I don't know what to do, Susan. He's my son. I can't report him. I can't sue him. But I also can't give him all my money and end up on the street. Susan took my hands. Margaret, listen to me carefully. That man doing this to you is no longer your son. Or at least, he isn't the son you raised. That woman turned him into someone else. And if you give in now, if you give them what they want, it will never end. They are going to squeeze you until there is nothing left, and then they are going to throw you in the trash. So, what do? You fight. You confront them. You show them you aren't a bank they can loot without consequences. How? I don't have proof of the deception. I have no way to void the signature. Susan smiled. It was a strange smile, almost dangerous. Then, we create the proof. We make them confess. How? Call David. Record the conversation. Make him admit he tricked you into signing. Make him say he falsified the document. Make him believe you are going to pay and that you just need to understand the details. Arrogant people always get overconfident. It was risky, but it was the only thing I had. That night, with trembling hands, I set up my phone to record. I called David. He answered immediately. Mom, did you make the transfer? David, I need to talk to you first. I need you to explain this signature thing to me clearly. When exactly did I sign as a guarantor? Because I don't remember signing anything related to a condo. There was a pause. Mom, we already talked about this. It was those papers I gave you 3 months ago. But you told me it was for life insurance. David laughed. It was an uncomfortable laugh. Well, I had to tell you something. If I had told you the truth, you wouldn't have signed. Vanessa told me it was the only way to get you to help us. I had him. He had admitted it. I kept pressing. So you lied to me. You made me sign something without me knowing what it was. Don't be dramatic, Mom. In the end, it's the same thing. You're going to help us one way or another. Are you going to make the transfer or not? David, $8,000 a month is going to wipe out all my savings in less than a year. That's not my problem. You should have thought about that before refusing to help us when we asked nicely. Now either you pay voluntarily or the bank forces you. You choose. I understand, I said, keeping my voice calm though inside I was shaking. But I need to know one more thing. David, if I pay these months, what guarantee do I have that you guys are going to refinance like you promised? What guarantee do I have that this won't be forever? David sighed with impatience. Mom, you don't need guarantees. I'm your son. Trust me. I trusted you when you told me those papers were for insurance. Look where I ended up. Look, do what you want. But I'm warning you, if tomorrow at 5 p.m. I don't see that transfer in the account, Vanessa is going to call the bank and initiate the foreclosure process. And we aren't going to stop her. In fact, she already has everything ready. She's waiting for any excuse to do it. Why? I asked, feeling a deep pain in my chest. Why do you hate me so much? What did I do to deserve this? It's not about hate, Mom. It's about money. You have it. We need it. It's simple. And frankly, at your age, what do you need so much money saved for? Are you going to get married again? Are you going to travel the world? You're just sitting there in that old house waiting to die. At least let us use that money to build something. Every word was a stab wound. This wasn't my son. It couldn't be. My David never would have spoken like this, never would have reduced me to a walking bank account waiting for death. Okay, I said finally. I'll make the transfer tomorrow. Perfect. I knew you'd see reason. I'm sending you the account details right now. He hung up without saying goodbye, without an I love you, without a thank you. Just hung up. I stopped the recording. I had everything I needed. The clear confession that he had deceived me, that he had falsified the purpose of the document, that he was extorting me. It was enough. The next morning, I went back to Mr. Harrison. I played him the recording. He listened to it completely, twice, taking notes. This is gold, Margaret. With this, we can void your signature as a guarantor. There is proven deceit. There is admission of fraud. There is extortion. I can present this before a judge today. How long will it take? If we're lucky, a week to get a temporary injunction. That will prevent the bank from acting while the case is resolved. Then, maybe a month or two for full annulment. And the bank? Once your signature is voided, the bank will go solely after the primary borrowers, your son and daughter-in-law. You will be completely out of it. And if they can't pay? Mr. Harrison looked at me seriously. Then they will lose the condo. The bank will foreclose and sell it. And they will likely be left with debt on top of that, depending on how much the bank recovers in the sale. David would lose the apartment. His dream, his project, his future, and it would be my fault. Or at least, that's how he would see it. But the alternative was losing my house, ending up on the street, destroying my life to save their boundless ambition. Do it, I said. File everything today. Mr. Harrison nodded. I need you to understand something, Margaret. Once we do this, there is no going back. Your relationship with your son, which is already damaged, will probably break completely, at least for a while. Maybe forever. It's already broken, I replied, feeling a cold clarity settle in my chest. The son I raised wouldn't do this to me. What's left now is just someone wearing his name and his face, but who no longer has his heart. That afternoon, Mr. Harrison filed the suit. By 5 p.m., when the deadline David gave me expired, the official notification reached the bank. Temporary suspension of any action against the guarantor due to possible fraud in obtaining the signature. Case under judicial investigation. I didn't make the transfer. I wasn't going to make any transfer. At 5:30, my phone exploded. David called 12 times in a row. I didn't answer. Then the texts arrived. Where is the payment? Mom, the bank says you filed a lawsuit. What did you do? Call me now. Vanessa also wrote. You miserable old woman, we are going to destroy you. I turned off the phone. I needed silence. I needed peace. For the first time in months, I had done something to protect myself, instead of just giving in and suffering. Susan arrived that night with a bottle of wine. You did it. I did it. We toasted. It wasn't a happy celebration. It was the sad toast of someone who has just cut off a gangrenous limb to save the body. It hurt. God, how it hurt. But it was necessary. The following days were a hell of harassment. David and Vanessa called at all hours. They left voicemails full of insults, threats, pleading. You are a bad mother. You're going to destroy us. The bank is going to take everything. How can you do this to your own son? You're going to regret it. You're going to die alone and no one will cry for you. I changed my phone number. But they found another way. 1 week after filing the lawsuit, they showed up at my door. It was a Saturday morning. I was watering the plants when I heard the car pull up in front of my house. They both got out. David looked wrecked, with deep circles under his eyes and wrinkled clothes. Vanessa had red eyes, but not from sadness. From pure fury. Open the door, screamed Vanessa, pounding with force. Open up right now, you ridiculous old woman. I stayed inside, paralyzed. I didn't know what to do. Mom, please, shouted David. We have to talk. This is a misunderstanding. We can fix it. It is not a misunderstanding, Margaret, interrupted Vanessa. It is a betrayal. You did this on purpose. You knew exactly what you were doing when you signed those papers, and now you're playing the victim. I approached the door, but I didn't open it. I spoke through it. Vanessa, you made me sign those papers through deceit. I have David's confession recorded. You are lucky I am only voiding my signature and not pressing criminal charges for fraud. There was silence. Then Vanessa exploded. You recorded your own son? What kind of mother does that? The kind of mother who is being extorted by her own son, I replied, surprised at how firm my voice sounded. It's not extortion, shouted David. It's helping your family. It's what mothers are supposed to do. Mothers help, David. They don't let themselves be destroyed. You two didn't want help. You wanted everything. You wanted to leave me with nothing. You still have your house, screamed Vanessa. We are going to lose our apartment because of you. The bank already notified us. If we don't pay the first installment in 3 days, they start foreclosure. Then get the money from somewhere else. Sell it. Look for a cheaper apartment. Do what normal people do when they can't afford something. Adjust your standard of living. We worked hard for this apartment, sobbed David. It's our dream, and my house is my life. The only thing I have left of your father. I am not going to lose it for your dream, son. Vanessa started pounding on the door harder. You are selfish. A bitter, selfish old woman. I hope you die alone in this crappy house. Vanessa, stop. Finally, David stopped her. There was a moment of silence. Then I heard my son's voice, broken, pleading. Mom, please. Drop the lawsuit. I promise we'll find another way. I promise we'll pay you back everything. But give me time. Don't let us lose the apartment. Please. For a second, just a second, I felt the impulse to open the door, to hug him, to give in like I had given in my whole life. But then I remembered the insults, the threats, the way he had used me, the recording where he admitted deceiving me without a shred of remorse. No, I said simply. The answer is no. I hate you, screamed Vanessa. I hate you, and I wish you were dead. I heard footsteps walking away, a car starting, then silence. I slid down the door until I was sitting on the floor, shaking. I had done the right thing. I knew it, but it hurt as if they had ripped the heart out of my chest. The following days were the darkest I had lived since Arthur's death. I stayed in bed late, without energy, without appetite, without desire for anything. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw David's face at my door, begging. I heard his broken voice, and I wondered again and again if I had done the right thing. Susan came every day. She brought me food, forced me to shower, took me out to the garden to get some sunday. You are grieving, she told me. You are mourning the loss of your son. But he chose this path, Margaret, not you. Mr. Harrison called me a week after the scene at my door. I have news. The judge reviewed the evidence. The recording is damning. They are granting you the annulment of the signature as guarantor. As of today, legally you have no responsibility for that loan. I should have felt relieved. I should have celebrated. But I only felt a deep emptiness. And what happens with David? The bank gave them one last chance. They have 15 days to pay the initial installment, plus late fees, or they proceed with the foreclosure of the unit. As far as I know, they asked for an extension, but it was denied. Are they going to lose the apartment? Almost certainly. Unless they get the money from another source. Vanessa's parents, they had money. Surely they would help their daughter. But something told me they wouldn't. Something in Vanessa's desperation at my door told me they had already said no. That I had been their last resort. I tried not to think about it. I tried to convince myself it wasn't my problem. But he was my son. Even if he had hurt me, even if he had betrayed me, he was still my son. One night, 2 weeks later, the doorbell rang. It was almost 11 p.m. My heart raced. David? Vanessa? Were they coming to make another scene? I looked out the window. It was David. Alone. Without Vanessa. He looked terrible. Worse than the last time, as if he hadn't slept in days. I shouldn't open it. I knew that. But something in his posture, something in the way his shoulders slumped, broke me. I opened the door. We looked at each other in silence for long seconds. He had red eyes. I probably did too. Can I come in? He asked with a hoarse voice. I hesitated. But finally, I stepped aside. He walked in slowly, looking at the house as if seeing it for the first time, or maybe as if it were the last. He sat on the sofa without being invited. I remained standing, keeping distance. We lost the apartment, he said finally. The bank foreclosed 3 days ago. We have to vacate in a week. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. Vanessa's parents refused to help us. They said they had already put in enough money and that this was our responsibility. We tried to get another loan, but no one gave it to us. We are on every blacklist now. Silence. Heavy. Painful. Vanessa is furious. She says everything is your fault, that you ruined our lives, that you are a horrible mother. He paused. I thought that too. During these days, I have hated you more than I thought possible to hate someone. Every word was a knife, but I let him continue. But then today, something happened. We were packing our things from the apartment. Vanessa was screaming, blaming me for everything, saying I was useless for not being able to control my own mother. And suddenly, I saw her. He looked me straight in the eyes for the first time since he entered. I saw her as she is, Mom. I saw a cruel, manipulative woman who only married me because she thought we were an easy target, who convinced me to betray you, to lie to you, to trick you, who made me believe money was more important than anything, who turned me into someone I don't recognize. His voice cracked. Tears began to roll down his cheeks. I told Vanessa that all this was my fault, that I had hurt you, that I had betrayed your trust. And do you know what she said to me? She told me to stop being so weak, that you didn't matter, that the only thing that mattered was getting more money from wherever. He covered his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. I realized that if I stayed with her, she was going to end up destroying me completely. I was going to lose myself forever. So I told her I wanted a divorce. I lifted my head sharply. What? I asked her for a divorce this morning. She laughed. She said perfect, that she didn't need me anymore anyway, that she would find someone better, someone with a family that actually had money. She packed her things and went to her parents' house. Just like that, as if our marriage hadn't meant anything. He wiped his tears with the back of his hand. He looked like a lost child. My lost child. I come to ask for your forgiveness, Mom. I know I don't deserve it. I know what I did to you is unforgivable. I lied to you, I tricked you, I tried to steal everything you had. I told you horrible things. I treated you as if you were nothing. And I did it consciously. I can't blame only Vanessa. I chose to follow her. I chose to hurt you. His voice was barely a whisper now. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to welcome me back into your life. I just needed to tell you that I'm sorry. That I regret every second of these last few months. I would give anything to turn back time and listen to you when you warned me about her. But I can't. And now I have to live knowing that I destroyed the relationship with the only person who really loved me unconditionally. He stood up to leave. He walked toward the door. I remained paralyzed, processing everything. With his hand on the doorknob, he turned one last time. One more thing. I found this among the papers when I was packing. He took an envelope out of his pocket. It's the purchase contract for the condo. Vanessa had kept it. I thought you would want to see it. He left it on the table by the door. Bye, Mom. Take care of yourself. He left. The door closed softly behind him. I stood motionless for minutes that seemed like hours. Then, with trembling hands, I picked up the envelope. I opened it. Inside was the complete contract for the apartment. I read it. And there, in one of the clauses, I found something that froze my blood. A note in the margin in Vanessa's handwriting. Once the old woman pays 6 months, we remove her as co-signer and leave her with the debt. Then we sell the apartment for a profit and buy something better. Perfect plan. It wasn't just that they wanted my money. They had planned to ruin me completely and then abandon me with the debts. Vanessa had calculated everything from the beginning. And David, my son, had agreed to that plan. Except now he was here, asking for my forgiveness. Was it real, or was it another manipulation? Had he come because he truly regretted it, or because he had lost everything and needed a place to stay? I didn't know. And that night I didn't have the energy to find out. I put the contract away. It would be useful if they ever tried to accuse me of anything again. It was proof of their true intentions. Days passed. David didn't contact me again. He didn't call. He didn't write. Nothing. Part of me felt relieved. Another part felt lonelier than ever. Susan found me one afternoon looking out the window. You're still thinking about him. He's my son. I'm always going to think about him. Would you forgive him if he comes back? That was the million-dollar question. I don't know. I want to believe his regret was genuine. But I'm so afraid it's another trap. that he's still working with Vanessa, that this is just another way to get to my money. Your instinct protected you until now. Trust it. She was right, but the mother instinct and the survival instinct were at war inside me. One screamed at me to protect my son, to give him another chance. The other warned me to stay away, that a snake will always remain a snake. 2 weeks later, I received a certified letter. It was from the bank. It officially confirmed that I had been removed as a guarantor on the loan, that I had no financial responsibility, and that the condo had been foreclosed on and sold at auction. The primary borrowers, David and Vanessa, were left with a residual debt of $23,000 that they had to pay in installments or face further legal action. I was free. Completely free. My house was safe. My savings were intact. I had won. So why did I feel so empty? The weeks turned into months. Summer gave way to autumn. The leaves in the garden Arthur planted began to fall, covering everything in a blanket of orange and brown. I continued with my routine. Get up, make coffee, water the plants, watch TV, sleep. An existence more than a life. Susan insisted on getting me out of the house. You can't stay locked up forever. Margaret, you won the battle. Now you have to live. But winning didn't feel like I had imagined. I felt like those soldiers who return from war, victorious but scarred, free but haunted by ghosts. One October afternoon, the doorbell rang. My heart skipped a beat like every time someone knocked on the door, always waiting for it to be David, always disappointed when it wasn't. This time was different. I looked out the window and saw him. David, but he looked different. Thinner, with shorter hair, simpler clothes. He was no longer wearing those elegant suits Vanessa made him wear. He looked younger, or maybe just more tired. I opened the door slowly. We looked at each other without speaking. There was so much to say, and at the same time, nothing that could fix what was broken. "Hi, Mom," he said finally, with a soft voice. "Hi, David. Can I come in?" "Just a moment. If you don't want me to." "I understand." I stepped aside. He entered, but this time he didn't sit down. He stayed standing in the middle of the living room, nervous, wringing his hands. "I'm not coming to ask for anything," he began quickly. "I just wanted you to know I got a new job. It doesn't pay as much as the old one, but it's honest. I'm renting a room at a coworker's house. It's small, but it's fine. I'm paying off my debts little by little." I nodded. I didn't know what to say. The divorce was finalized last week. Vanessa didn't put up a fight. In fact, she's already dating someone else. A businessman, of course. Someone with real money this time. There was bitterness in his voice, but also something like relief. I also started therapy. The therapist says I have problems with boundaries, with saying no, with seeking validation in the wrong places. He says Vanessa identified that in me and exploited it. But he also says I am responsible for my decisions, that I can't blame only her. He finally sat down, on the edge of the sofa, as if he didn't feel entitled to get comfortable. "I've been thinking a lot about Dad lately, about how he was, how he treated you, how he worked hard, but never lost sight of what mattered: family, love, decency. He never would have done to you what I did. Never." His voice cracked, but he controlled the tears. I was at his grave last week. I talked to him. I asked for forgiveness for having turned into someone he wouldn't recognize, for having hurt the person he loved most in the world, for having betrayed everything he taught me. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "I don't expect you to forgive me, Mom. I know what I did is unforgivable, but I needed you to know that I am trying to be better. To be the man Dad wanted me to be. The son you deserved to have." I sat in front of him. My own tears were starting to fall. "Why did you do it, David? Why did you hurt me like that?" He closed his eyes. "Because I was ashamed. Ashamed of our humble life. Ashamed of this small house. Ashamed of not having grown up with the opportunities Vanessa had. And she fed that shame. She made me believe I deserved more, that you owed me more, that taking from you wasn't stealing but claiming what belonged to me. I gave you everything I had," I whispered. "I know. And it was never enough because the problem wasn't what you gave me. The problem was the hole inside me that wanted to fill itself with material things. Vanessa was just the catalyst. I already had the sickness." We sat in silence. Outside, The wind moved the dry leaves in the garden. "What do you want from me?" I asked finally. "Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. And that if one day, maybe in years, you can look at me again without hate, that would be more than I deserve." He got up to leave. But this time, something in me reacted. A little voice that had been asleep for months. "David, wait." He stopped, turning around with hopeful eyes. "I'm very sorry about what happened with the apartment. I know it was your dream." He shook his head. "It wasn't my dream, Mom. It was Vanessa's dream. My dream was to have a family like the one Dad and you built. One where love was more important than money, and I ruined it. But I'm going to fix it. I don't know how, but I will. Come over on Sunday." The words came out before I could stop them. He looked at me confused. "What?" "To eat, like before. Like I used to?" Tears filled his eyes. "Really? A meal. Just that. It doesn't mean everything is forgiven, but it's a start." He nodded, unable to speak. He walked toward me slowly and hugged me. It was a desperate hug from someone who is drowning and finds a hand. I stayed rigid at first, but slowly my arms moved and I hugged him too. "Thanks, Mom," he whispered against my shoulder. "I promise I won't let you down again. Don't make me promises, David. Just show me with actions." He pulled away, wiping his eyes. "I will. I swear on Dad, I will." He left, but this time with something he hadn't had in months. Hope. When I closed the door, Susan came out of the kitchen where she had been listening to everything. She looked at me with concern. "Are you sure about this?" "No," I admitted, "but he's my son, and maybe we all deserve a second chance. Or maybe I'm a fool. Time will tell. If he hurts you again, then I will have learned the lesson permanently, but if I don't give him this chance, I'm going to regret it the rest of my life." Sunday arrived. I had cooked like in the old days. The table was set. I had bought cinnamon rolls from that bakery David liked. At 2 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. He arrived on time with a bouquet of yellow flowers and a nervous smile. "For you," he said, handing me the flowers. "I know it doesn't fix anything, but they are beautiful. Thank you." We ate in an awkward silence at first. Then, slowly, we started to talk. About small things, about David's job, about the weather, about the garden plants. Nothing deep, nothing that hurt. But it was something. It was more than we had had in months. When we finished, David helped wash the dishes. We worked side by side in the kitchen, like when he was a boy and I taught him to be responsible. "Next week?" he asked hopefully when he was leaving. "Next week," I confirmed. That was 3 months ago. David has come every Sunday since then. We don't talk about the apartment. We don't talk about Vanessa. We don't talk about the money. We talk about simple things. His therapy, his new coworkers. My knitting classes I picked back up. Memories of Arthur. It is slow. It is painful. Sometimes there are long and uncomfortable silences. Sometimes I see guilt in his eyes and in mine he must see mistrust. But we keep trying. I don't know if one day we will be what we were. Probably not. Too much broke. Too much was said. Too much pain was caused. But maybe, just maybe, we can build something new. Something different. A relationship based on honesty instead of obligation. On respect instead of manipulation. On real love instead of conditional love. Or maybe I am being naive. Maybe David will hurt me again. Maybe he will meet another Vanessa who will convince him that I am the obstacle on his path to success. But I decided that living with that fear was worse than giving him a chance. I decided I preferred to be a mother who believed too much than a mother who didn't believe enough. 6 months have passed since that first Sunday. Winter came and went, and now spring is painting the garden new colors. The flowers I planted with Arthur so many years ago bloomed again, like they always do, no matter how much darkness has passed through. David still comes every Sunday, without fail, rain or shine. Some weeks he brings dessert. Others he brings stories from his work. Others he just brings his presence. And that is enough. A month ago, he asked permission to bring someone. A woman named Sarah whom he met in his therapy group. She isn't his girlfriend, he clarified quickly. Just a friend. Someone who is also rebuilding her life after a difficult divorce. I met her. She is a simple woman, an elementary school teacher with kind eyes and an easy laugh. Nothing like Vanessa. We talked about books, about gardening, about life. She didn't try to impress me. She didn't evaluate my house with contempt. She was just kind, genuinely kind. When they left that day, Susan, who had come to meet her too, told me, "That's good people. You can tell from a mile away." "I know," I replied, "but I'm afraid to get my hopes up. You are always going to be afraid after what happened. But you can't live in fear forever." She's right. Fear has become my constant companion. Every time David arrives, a part of me expects him to come with another request, another demand, another betrayal. But he doesn't. He just comes, eats, talks, laughs, and leaves. Like a normal son. Like it always should have been. Last week something happened that I didn't expect. David arrived with an envelope. "Before you say anything," he began, "this isn't an attempt to buy your forgiveness. It's just something I need to do." I opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $5,000. The money I gave him for the wedding. "David, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," he interrupted me. "It took me 6 months of extra work, of not going out, of saving every penny. But it's yours. It was always yours. And even though I can never pay you back for everything I put you through, I can start by paying you back this." I looked at the check. $5,000. It wasn't much compared to everything that had happened, but it meant something bigger than the money. It meant that David was trying, really trying. "Thank you," I said, putting the check away. Not because I needed the money, but because I needed to believe my son was changing. That night, after he left, I sat in the garden, the same spot where Arthur used to sit and smoke his pipe on Sunday afternoons. I spoke to him like I do sometimes, when the loneliness gets too heavy. "I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, Arthur. I don't know if forgiving him is bravery or stupidity, but I can't live with hate in my heart. Not like this. Not when I have worked so hard to build a life of peace." The wind blew softly, moving the tree branches. Arthur always said that when the wind blew like that, it was his way of answering me. I chose to believe that. This morning, when I woke up, there was a text from David. "Good morning, Mom. Just wanted to tell you I love you and I think about you every day. Thank you for not giving up on me when you had every reason to." I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried in months. But they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of something I had forgotten how to feel. Hope. Have I completely forgiven David? No. Real forgiveness, deep forgiveness, takes time. Maybe years. Maybe a lifetime. There are nights when I still wake up remembering the horrible things he said to me. The threats, the way he treated me as if I were nothing more than a source of money. But there are also mornings when I wake up remembering the boy who used to climb into my bed when he had nightmares. The teenager who brought me wildflowers he picked on the way home. The young man who cried in my arms when his father died and promised he would always take care of me. That David is still there, battered, ashamed, trying to find his way back. And I, his mother, have to decide every day if I am going to help him return or if I am going to close the door forever. I have chosen to help him, but with boundaries, with protection, with my eyes wide open. My bank account remains mine alone. David has no access. He doesn't know how much I have saved. And it will stay that way. Love doesn't mean being a fool. Forgiveness doesn't mean being vulnerable again. Susan asked me yesterday if I regret having fought, having voided the signature, having let them lose the apartment. No, I replied without hesitation. If I hadn't fought, I would be on the street right now, and David would still be with Vanessa, believing he can take from others without consequences. Sometimes, loving someone means letting them fall. It is the only way they learn to get up on their own. David fell. He fell hard. He lost his dream apartment, his marriage, his image of success. But in that fall, he found something more valuable. He found who he really was. He found that money and appearances don't fill the void. He found that he had hurt the only person who loved him unconditionally. And now he is learning to live with those lessons. To build something real instead of something beautiful but fake. Will he screw up again? Probably. We all do. But I hope he never screws up like that again. That he never again values material things over people. That he never again lets someone convince him to betray his own heart. As for Vanessa, I know nothing of her. According to David, she got married again 2 months ago. To that rich businessman she met. I hope, for that man's sake, that he has his eyes wider open than my son did. I hope he sees what she is before it is too late. But that isn't my problem. Vanessa exited our lives as quickly as she entered, like a tornado that destroys everything in its path and then disappears, leaving only rubble and painful memories. Sometimes I wonder if she thinks about what she did. If she ever feels remorse for almost destroying a family? For manipulating a man until she turned him into someone cruel? For trying to leave a 66-year-old woman on the street? Probably not. People like Vanessa rarely look back. She is already building her next plan, her next trap, her next victim. But that is not my problem either. My problem, my joy, my life now is this: a small but paid-off house, a garden that blooms every spring, enough savings to live with dignity, true friendships like Susan, who held me up when everything was crumbling, and a son who, slowly, painfully, is finding his way back home. It isn't the life I imagined. I imagined growing old, surrounded by grandchildren, with David visiting me with his happy family, being the proud grandmother who baked cookies and told stories. But life is rarely what we imagine. And that's okay, because what I have now is real. It is honest. It is mine. Yesterday, while David and I were drinking coffee after lunch, he told me something that touched my heart. "Mom, you know what I regret most?" "What?" "That Dad isn't here to see that I am trying to fix it. To see that I finally understood what he always tried to teach me, that real wealth isn't in what you have, but in who you are. Your father would be proud that you understood it, even if it took this painful path to get there. Are you proud of me?" The question took me by surprise. I looked at my son, at this 36-year-old man who had made terrible mistakes but was trying to amend them. "I am proud that you are trying," I answered honestly. "Complete pride will take more time, but we will get there." He nodded, understanding. He didn't need false promises of instant forgiveness. He needed honesty. And that is what I am giving him. Today is Sunday again. In a few hours, David will arrive. He will bring pastries. I will have cooked. We will sit down to eat. We will talk. Maybe there will be awkward silences. Maybe not. But we will be there, the two of us, trying. Arthur told me once, shortly before dying, that true love isn't the kind that never breaks. It is the kind that, after breaking, finds a way to piece itself back together. The cracks will always be there, the scars will be visible, but if both parties really want it, it can be something beautiful again. Something different from the original, but beautiful nonetheless. That is what David and I are doing, gluing the broken pieces, slowly, carefully, without rushing. And in this process, I learned something about myself. I learned that I am stronger than I believed, that I can fight for what is mine, that I can say no, even to my own son, when that no is necessary for my survival. That love doesn't mean sacrificing myself until I disappear. I am Margaret. I am 66 years old. I am a widow, a retired seamstress, mother of a complicated son. I lived through a betrayal that almost destroyed me. But it didn't. I am still here. I am still standing. I still have my house, my dignity, my life. And that, after everything that happened, is more than enough.